Okay, it's Monday in Tryon, Monday in Tryon, North Carolina, and I've been working on spiritual warfare. As a matter of fact, gotten so interested in this that I may just write a book on it, using the Bible as the way to win in spiritual warfare. But I want you to take a minute with me and just think about all the different topics of spiritual warfare. That is, areas where you may have had spiritual warfare or are having spiritual warfare. And if I missed one, would you just drop me a note and tell me, hey, I think this is one that would be good to include. Doesn't have to be one that you've struggled with, but perhaps something you saw somebody else struggle with. So here's the list, in not any particular order, but anger, vengeance, revenge, strife, worry, bitterness, forgiveness, slander, tongue, gossip, language, unclean thoughts, fear, jealousy, envy, perfectionism, critical, judgmental, fault-finding, prejudice, partiality, selfishness, pride, ego, vanity, addiction of any kind, alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever, patience, confidence, truthfulness, trust, stewardship, pain, stealing, lazy, slothful, sluggard, self-esteem, workaholic, materialism, purity, stubbornness, mercy, forgiveness, faithful, trust, grumbling, naive, grief, loss, depression, covet, fatigue, discipline, divorce, accountability, naive, age, appetite, balance of life, celibacy, compromise, contentment, self-control, and obedience. There's certainly a long list there. And in some ways, I hope it hit a nerve, because maybe it's something you're struggling with currently, and I can help you by going back to the scriptures and finding the ways to win in that particular area. And if I'm going to make a comprehensive book on winning in spiritual warfare, then there may be some that you feel like I need to add to this list. Nevertheless, the answer is always found in Scripture, and we can usually find an example of someone in the Bible who struggled with this kind of a spiritual warfare. Sometimes they won, sometimes they lost. But the answer is always found in Scripture and walking with God. That's the general fix, is walking with God. But it's really helpful to find specifics. For example, tonight I want to deal just for a few minutes with addiction. I have helped a number of people who have wanted to stop smoking, and my way of helping them was usually the same. For men, if they had a shirt pocket, that they always kept their cigarettes up here in their shirt pocket, I suggested that they make a deck of cards about the size of a pack of cigarettes, of all of the scripture verses that told us about the dangers of harming the body, the temple of God. Scriptures that talked about how we could call upon Him. Anything that would help them to remember that they needed to quit, because it could very definitely harm their temple of God, and their health, their loved ones would be affected. And so many times the person, the male that I would give this suggestion to, and every time they would reach for what they thought was going to be a they would come up with a scripture card that would help them to remember how to win that battle. That doesn't mean you can't use patches and that you can't use medications, but this would help in addition, especially if you're a spiritual person. For females, I would suggest that they made a pack of cards, if you will, and put them in their purse or wherever they used to keep their cigarettes, and do the same thing. In the area of alcohol addiction, I challenged most of those that were addicted to alcohol, who claimed that it was just the taste and not the kick they were getting from the alcohol content. In a couple of cases, I suggested that they try a non-alcoholic beer or wine as a substitute. And if they could get by for 30 days with using nothing but the non-alcoholic wine or beer, then more than likely they were not addicted. But if they could not get by 30 days without going to alcoholic beer or wine, then they had to admit that they were addicted and needed to start working on all of the dangers of alcohol. The percentage of people that drink eventually become an alcoholic or have an event in their life that's life-changing as a result of alcohol. So those are some of the ways that you can deal with addiction on cigarettes and alcohol. On hard drugs, it's a little more difficult. Many times it requires medication, inpatient care, or a very strong support team such as Teen Challenge, Faith Farms, or one of the places where they deal solely with addiction and keep a strong support group around you 24/7. Most of the time, these are voluntary programs which require that you want to go there and that you want to break this addiction. And when people become that desperate, they usually win. But there's almost always a spiritual aspect of it, whether it's Faith Farms or whether it's Teen Challenge, Rafa, or any of the other organizations that help those that are drug addicted. There is a spiritual side of helping them away from the addiction. Well, that's your thought for the day. Hope that some of you will write me or post on YouTube some of the areas where you may have challenged yourself with spiritual warfare, or that you've seen a friend or a loved one that's been challenged by spiritual warfare in an area that I did not list. You hope you can play this video 2 or 3 times and listen to the list and see if you can come up with some other areas that I've missed. And I really would like to help anyone that's going through spiritual warfare find a way of victory. If you want to do it anonymously, you can do that. And you can mail those anonymously to Pete Vandewey at 939 Mountain Lakes Drive, Tryon, North Carolina, 29681. And again, you can play this video back to get that address again. But I hope that you have a good day, and I hope that you'll have spiritual victory over your spiritual warfare. God bless.